Hey guys, Brewski here, and I've got another arts and crafts project for you today. I'm showing you how to make your own custom scoring zones for Warmachine and Hordes. Check these out. You're going to need some measuring equipment, something to measure out your size. You're going to need some regular paint brushes. I recommend a couple sponge brushes just because they're great for dabbing. You'll need something to stir the mix with. You'll need something to mark your actual size with. You'll need some cutting devices like Stanley here, retractable knife. You'll need some scraping tools. These are actually going to spread out the mix on the canvas. Scissors, because you're going to be cutting a few things. You'll need tape. You can use staples, but I prefer this because it's cheaper and easier. You'll want some isopropyl alcohol. This thins down the caulking mix, so you actually don't have it as thick and as tough. You'll also need some acrylic paint. Any craft paint will do. You don't have to do anything special. You'll need something to mix in. For a project this size, a solo cup will do. I use this stencil, by the way. I'll throw a link in comments below. You can actually find these on Amazon. It's an embossing stencil, but this one has a nice brick cobblestone pattern. And you're going to need acrylic caulk. This is just basic painter's caulk. It's acrylic latex caulk. You don't want anything with silicone because it won't take to paint. And you'll need a gun to actually decant that out. Lastly, you'll need some kind of canvas dropcloth. Now, this, I got a 5x5 sheet of it for about $8 or $9 at my hardware store. You can get a couple different kinds. This one, you can't see it too well, but it actually has plastic backing. So when you apply a mix of caulk and paint, it isn't going to go through that onto another surface. And I bought this board here, a 2x2 project board, just to make that a little bit easier to work on so it wouldn't mess something up. So first thing you do is you want to measure out the size of what it is you're going to be cutting out. Now in my case, I'm doing Warmachine scoring zones. These are usually circular with a 12-inch diameter, or they are rectangular with a 6x12 size. So this was a little bit wonky, and the way I did this one, I measured out a little bigger. You want to give yourself, you know, an inch or two on the side so you actually have room to secure this down. Once you measure it out, just cut out your piece. And again, go bigger because you want to secure this to whatever you're working on so it's flat, it's taut. You can paint it without dragging it around. That's just going to make a mess later on. So give yourself a little extra room. These also have a little bit of a lip, I notice, and just to make it flat and even, I took that off. Now it seems like I'm measuring again. What this really is I'm marking out the actual size of the piece I need. Now, again, this is a 6x12 rectangle. I think I gave myself about an inch on each side. This gives you the idea of what you're going to need to cover. And what I actually did afterwards is, once I got the actual shape out, you can see it kind of faintly there. One way you can do this is you actually tape down right on the line. So you can refer to the edge of the tape, the inside edge, as your mark of what you need to cover and the size of the piece. The only thing I found wrong with this is if you spread the mix over the tape, sometimes if it's thick, you can't really see the edge. If you're really careful, you don't do that too much. There you have the marked out rectangle, and I'm just throwing down some extra tape so this doesn't go anywhere. Painter's tape will do, especially if you're doing something small like this. It's not going to move around. It's not too big of a deal to mess with. Okay, next you're going to want to start decanting out your mix for the actual caulk and paint mix. So I cut down that solo cup to about half size, and I use about a quarter to a third of a tube of caulk on this. Now, I had watched several people do videos on these, and I'd seen Mel the Terrain Tutor, RFD Hobby, Berserker Works. I know there's other guys who have done battle mats, but they recommend using alcohol. You could use water. This, basically though, you want to be careful. You don't want to go more than 10% liquid in the mix per ml. Otherwise, the bendability of your template is just going to go out the window. I'm also going to throw in paint. Those guys use stuff like sand, and I think one of them used baking soda. I'm even using a little bit of PVA here, just to give this a little more hardiness. Not very much. Little dollop is all you need. Now you want to stir that really, really well. I found, especially in something like a cup, that sometimes the bottom will be unmixed, or you'll have some liquid down there, some caulk that doesn't get mixed in. You really want to stir this like crazy. I was mixing and adding paint and adding more alcohol and adding a little bit more caulk. I was doing this really for almost 8 or 9 minutes, so I cut this all down, but you can see what I'm getting to there. And you're going to get this goopy kind of mix that's a little less than straight caulk. Go ahead and just spread that over what you're adding it to. You don't need to be neat about this part. Just get it out of the cup and onto there. Space it out. It'll help give you sort of an even coating. All right, once that's done, you're gonna need your scraper. And one thing I learned that I didn't do here is you can coat that with a little bit of isopropyl or water, and it'll make it spread a lot easier. I think I do this later on. But you're just gonna spread that out. Now, this is one of the things that's really kind of tricky to do. I recommend you do 1 or 2 test pieces before you make anything final or anything you're going to, settle on and sell, because you want this to be a certain thickness. You don't want the weave of the canvas to show. It's too thin if you've done that. But you want a decent thickness so it's smooth, it doesn't have a bunch of lines on it. Something, a couple of millimeters, 1/8 of an inch, whatever system you're using. That's what you're looking for, and you just want a smooth coating on this one. Again, I didn't add any sand or any kind of aggregate. I just wanted a smooth coat to paint on. And yeah, here you can see I just took a spray bottle. I put some isopropyl in it. I was trying to get out the lines from the scraper. Now I realized way after the fact I could have just used a bigger one, and that would have done a much better job. But just putting isopropyl on that will make it a lot smoother, a lot easier to flatten out. Okay, so once that's done and all dry, you could wait a couple of hours for this to be done. I gave it overnight. Most people say that. You're gonna wanna start painting this however you want. Now, I went with this cobblestone kind of pattern. You don't have to. You can, the beauty of this is you can make it to match your tables or your boards or your battle mats. You could paint this up as desert or snow or You could add flock to it, or some kind of sawdust flock to make it actually look like textured grass or whatever. I'm just going cobblestone. I kind of like the look of that, and it's going to match what I'm playing with. Now all I'm doing here is I'm taking some other acrylic acrylic paint, and it's a lighter shade gray. And this, the way I did it, it came out imperfectly, but it looks, I rather like the look of it in the end result. All I'm doing is taking one of my sponge brushes. You can use anything really. You could use a roller, a little touch-up roller, sponge brush, whatever. And you just want to paint on the side that has the sort of stones or the bricks are standing out. This stencil has it both ways. There's one where you would say the grouting, the in-between, is raised, and this is the side where the stone is raised. And embossing, you know, you're doing this with paper cardstock. You're trying to get a pattern on both sides of the paper, so it actually takes and holds a shape, but I'm not using it for that purpose here. Now, another weird thing, it looks like I did cover over the whole stencil, but you'll see I'm just going to press down, and this is perfectly sized. 3 of these will cover the whole 6x12 rectangle, so that was great. That was an awesomely picked item. I actually bought this years ago, and I had no idea I'd use it for this, but it came in handy. You'll see that even though I painted over the whole thing, it's not covering perfectly, which I think actually looked great. It looks very worn, it looks very weathered. Maybe this could be covered over in ash or something. And again, you just reapply a little bit of paint. If you dab it, I find it works a little bit better in covering it. Then you just place it down again. Give it a good press all around. And carefully peel it off. That one came out a little bit better, as you can see, probably because I dabbed the paint. Do it again, third time around, put it in the middle. There you have it. That's a pretty neat little stone effect. It blended in really well, so it didn't look like I stamped 3 times. I think I even went over the left side one more time. You can do that. It's gonna look messy, it's gonna look weird, it's gonna look irregular. I was totally fine with that. I love how this came out. Now, the next thing I wanted to do is, usually you see these scoring markers and they have some kind of symbol, some kind of emblem. I just found the K-Door emblem and printed out a rough copy. I sized this to a couple of inches. It'll fit right in the middle there, and all I want to do is create kind of what looks like a magic emblem effect. Now if you have an airbrush, this is going to be a lot easier, a lot quicker, but I can just get away using a sponge brush. I mixed up some light, sort of pinky red. I don't think the picture really does it justice here. It was a little more pink than red, kind of a neon effect, a glowing effect, if you will. And all I'm doing is I'm using that stencil, and I'm just getting around the edges, and I'm just dabbing. If you dab with a brush like this when it's loaded, it just creates a good kind of random but strong, very bold effect without looking like a straight painted line. And I'm just going around the outside, as you can see here. I'm just letting it slightly go on the stencil and slightly on the mat. When you're done, you just want to peel off the stencil. I got a little coffee stirrer here, just went underneath and flipped it like a klutz. No harm done. And you can see I've got the outline there. Now what you want to do is cut down the symbol. I decided I would throw in that inner circle on the K-Door symbol. So I just cut out that portion. And if you really want to be clean about this, I recommend you do a couple printouts of the exact same thing, the exact same size. Doesn't need to be color. You can do this black and white, totally fine. Then just same thing, hold it, load up your brush, and get the outline. You could freehand this. I'm really being a little bit retentive here, and I'll admit that, but I'm not. Freehanding is not my strong suit. Doing stuff like this is not really my strong suit, I will be really honest. So I went ahead and just used the stencil, and that worked out pretty well. And again, just get your handy coffee stir and lift off and remove, and don't drop like a klutz this time. Yay! All right, now I did freehand the inside part of this just because this is a really simple symbol. It's sort of a triangle with some bars on the points. Really not too hard to do. And you could put anything here. You could put your faction logos. You could put neat little patterns. You could put, someone had actually asked me on Facebook if they could commission me to make a few of these once I get the process down, doing a store logo. I guess that would be doable too. It's really up to you how you do this. Now the last thing is, usually when I see these templates, they have a sort of color around the edging just so you can see where it ends, where it begins. Again, this is where it comes in handy having that tape line, because you can't see the original pencil. And I will totally admit, the only thing I did here is I did cut it a little too big. I think I went off one of the tape lines, or the fabric stretched a little bit. I'm not sure which. That's not a problem because you can just cut down after the fact, but I got the whole thing highlighted so you can just see where the edge is. You can do this in your faction colors. I'm planning on doing kind of a pinky, I'm doing a dark red Khador with kind of pink energy, pink magic effect, so I just kind of went for this, and I went more to dry brush this. It came on a little stronger with the sponge brush than I wanted. That's fine. It's a rough project. And the beauty of this is you can use this for anything. You could make 2D terrain. You could make special scoring zones. You could make area of effect templates. I don't know how well that's going to hold in terms of shape and size, if it's going to stretch, but you could do that. This really is an unlimited kind of technique. And here you can see I'm just looking for those tape lines again, and I'm going to cut this out. I would not use an X-Acto on this. The first time I did it, it did cut through, but it kind of messed up some of the weave. I went for something a little bit heavier, and that cut all the way through and into the plywood, actually. It was really soft plywood. But just go around, use a straight edge. Don't freehand this because you will get wobbly edges. I did that on one corner of this. Cut away from yourself, safety first, you know, all that stuff. And once you finish, you have a flexible, bendable scoring zone. And about all I did after this was throw on some clear coat. I didn't get pictures or video of that or anything. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just get some clear varnish or spray and throw that all over, and you're all set. And there you have it. I'm really happy with how these turned out. They're flexible, they can be rolled up, they're bendy, they don't, you know, lose shape or anything, they don't lose color or paint, and they're super cheap to make. It's something that I'm really glad I stumbled upon and expanded the concept on. It's just, it adds that little bit of character to your tabletop as well, because you're not just using the same, you know, scoring zone that you've seen other people use. That's pretty cool to me. I don't know about you guys, but that's worth it. So if you like this, I would love to see yours if you decide to make one of these, and let me know your thoughts, what went good in the process, what went bad, if something didn't work. I definitely want to hear that. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe and tell your friends. We do want to grow the channel, and I really hope these are helpful. Have a great day. Stay savage, guys.